Well, hi everyone. Welcome to today's event, Making the Connection Between Information Governance and Business Strategy.
David Lavenda is with us. He is the Chief Product Officer at Harmony. And you're here, David, to talk to us a little bit about conquering information chaos with Microsoft 365, certainly a subject that many of us are concerned about as adoption of 365 just continues to skyrocket. Tell us more.
Okay, thanks, Kevin. I'd like to actually follow on to what Peggy's two points that Peggy made. One was how to be a hero with the tools you have, and I'll be talking about that for the next few moments. And the second one is you're successful when people don't even know you're doing your job. That's another theme that I'd like to touch on as we talk about how to conquer information chaos with Microsoft 365. So, I mean, the reality is today, I mean, it's been talked about a lot, this drive to remote work. It creates new risks for information chaos. This is a report from Gartner that came out. And it's obvious that as you distribute and spread out, you're going to have more risks. But one of the points that Gartner touched on was that you are starting to rely more on fragmented storage systems as you start to spread out and work from more locations. Now, as the pandemic hopefully is winding down and people are starting to come together again, the reality is that a lot of us are still going to be working remote part-time, working in satellite offices, working from home. This idea of fragmented storage systems, it may be somewhat not intuitive of what we're talking about. So one of the examples, I'll talk about one of a customer story later on, but the Employment and Social Development Department of the Government of Canada recently did a webinar with us, and they talked about this idea of when everybody went home with the pandemic, the email inboxes exploded with attachments because people struggled to have all the documents they needed on hand without having to rely upon other systems. This is just one example of a fragmented storage system that becomes extremely difficult to manage. So, and this is a study that also Peggy mentioned. This is a study that earlier in the year, a study about how people are managing their information, and organizations got a glowing C- for how they would how they're dealing with the rising tide in information chaos. And they're losing this because they need to think about and they need to think about how to get rid of outdated manual approaches, as Peggy mentioned also that in the keynote. And this case that I talked about, the Employment and Social Development of Canada, ESDC, in the webinar, they talked about their ability or their need to be able to enable employees to do information management without knowing they're doing information management. That was the key to success in getting over chaos. In the next couple minutes, hopefully I will be able to show you how you can do that with the Microsoft 365 tools you already have. So just before we get into a demonstration of how to do this, let's like to talk a little bit about the idea of teams. Peggy also mentioned this in the keynote about this idea that Teams was rolled out very quickly, and there's a lot of Teams sprawl that people are somewhat, in some cases, some resistant to using Teams as indicated. But one thing that's important to note is that as much as Teams has been rolled out and it's been adopted quickly, certainly for meetings, maybe less so for other of its features, is that external communication with customers, suppliers, and partners largely still resides in email. And the reason is severalfold. One is just simply it's very difficult to include partners into the Teams ecosystem. So yes, of course, you can have guests. The guest privileges are not the same as those of the internal employees, but more importantly is that when all the information resides in the tenant of the host, so that if the engagement with a partner, with a customer or a supplier is somehow severed, and the host can literally just cut off that access to the guest, and all the information resides with the host. This is not an acceptable solution for information governance or information management, because everyone has to have their own records of communication. And for that reason alone, information will continue, certainly for the foreseeable future, to be maintained and carried out through Outlook. So now we've got several problems. So you've got two applications, which are supposed to be the applications you're using for communication. Plus, you've got multiple applications, and this is only within the Microsoft 365 environment. So this is even before you start talking about all the other systems you have two systems for communicating, that's Outlook and Teams. Plus, you've got a number of document repositories, such as SharePoint, Teams, and OneDrive. So even within that ecosystem, you're starting to have a lot of chaos, and it's not always clear where you're supposed to be working, where you're supposed to be looking, where the information is supposed to be stored, how to have it in an organized fashion, and how to make it easy for people so that they can do information management without knowing they're doing information management. So two key problems need to be solved in order to conquer this problem. One is being able to find and discover important content in emails and documents. So we'll look at it in a moment, but emails, for a large portion of emails, are really documents of record. If you think about somebody sends you a proposal or a contract in email, that is a document of record that needs to be saved for audit purposes, for record keeping. So emails and documents, having to put them in an organized fashion, classify them in such a way, and be able to find them is critical to solving this information chaos. Certainly, as people start to distribute and to disperse and working from many different locations, you no longer can just reach over the cubicle wall or walk down the hall and ask somebody for a document or where they put something. It becomes much more difficult to find it. The second part of that is how to reach out and get help from colleagues when working with clients. So yes, Teams has great functionality for being able to do chats with internally, but when you're working on a problem that you've received from a client asks you a request for information, they may have sent over some documents, you need to get input from some of your colleagues, how to do that within Teams when the whole thread started from email is also something that needs to be taken care of to really get a handle on this information chaos. So let's just talk about the three kinds of emails, because it's just to put this into context. As I said just a moment ago, there a lot of emails are emails of record. So things like, again, contracts, proposals, questions that you may get from clients. If you're in professional services, for example, and you get questions or support, the answers that you provide become documents of record that you need to be able to provide those when, if needed, for audit or for legal purposes. So what you need to do here with these types of emails, you need to be able to capture, classify, and find them in order to be able to produce them later on. The second kind of email, and by the way, records, these typically find, according to industry numbers, is about 5 to 10% of your email, which doesn't sound like a lot until you figure in the millions of emails that you get every year. This number becomes quite large. The second kind of emails are those that are task related. Oftentimes, somebody asks you to give them an update, a status report, something of this nature, and those types of emails, the really chore with them is to be able to share them with the team, to be able to collaborate with colleagues. So in a way that you don't just start an email thread. I was just talking to a customer the other day who said they started with an email thread of 5 people on a team, and within about 2 days, that email had led to about 5,000 back and forth emails, because everyone was just just sending everyone in the group all the responses. So you need to get this under control so you can collaborate with colleagues without creating this email sprawl. And then, of course, there's just the vast majority of email, which is junk, which you need to get rid of in order so that it doesn't have clutter, and it makes it easier to find the other things. So I'm going to talk about a couple of products that Harmony, our company, provides to help you do information management without thinking about information management right within the Microsoft 365 set of tools. The first one is Harmony 365. That's what I'm going to be demonstrating today. It's an Outlook sidebar that brings all the Microsoft document repositories right into your Outlook window, so that people don't even know that they're actually working with a document repository. They think they're still in Outlook working with emails. The second product is one that I won't be talking about today. I'll just mention it briefly, is Email Teammate. Email Teammate is a Teams plugin which allows you to import emails directly into a conversation without leaving Teams, so that if you get a email from somebody and you want to discuss it with the team, instead of sending the threads all around, you literally can just click on a button, bring the email into the conversation, have the conversation, respond to the customer or the client or the supplier without having to create an endless email thread. So with that, I'd like to introduce Harmony 365, which brings Teams, SharePoint, and OneDrive within Outlook. And before I switch over to the demo, I'd just like to briefly mention what the capabilities that are provided that fulfill the requirements for information management and information governance to conquer that information chaos. So the first thing you need to do is to be able to capture the emails and documents into SharePoint, into Teams, into OneDrive. It has to be captured into a place where it's centrally located, so that if somebody else needs access to it, they have access to it if the organization provides it. It's not stuck in somebody's inbox that you have to ask them to send another attachment. So capturing is one core piece. The second part is classifying that information, not only documents, but emails, because again, emails are documents of record with metadata. And how do we do this easily? Because as Peggy said, when you rely on manual processes and you ask people to do this on their own, it becomes difficult. So you have to make this as easy as possible, so that there's absolutely, it becomes just no way to fail at getting this done properly. Once this is done, how do you make it easy for people to discover emails and documents without having to leave the comfort of the email window where they're spending the workday and have to go out and look for it through the other tools? And the fourth part is, in many cases, you want to also be able to share and information with colleagues. Microsoft has provided some very nice share capabilities to be able to extend sharing of information and content, but again, making it easy for people to do so that they don't have to leave the Outlook window is the key to success. So with that, I'm going to switch over quickly to a demo, and we're going to show you how this works in just a few moments that we have. So what you see in front of you is an Outlook window. This should be familiar to everybody. You see the, I have some sample emails on the side. What is new here is the right side of the screen, which is the Harmony Outlook, Harmony 365 Outlook sidebar. And what you see here is really all your locations for document repositories within Office 365. So if I say click on SharePoint, I can see all the SharePoint sites that I'm connected to. I can see all the team sites that I'm connected to. And I can, of course, see OneDrive, the things that I have in OneDrive, and also very nice capability of seeing all the documents that have been shared with me in Microsoft 365 and the documents that I have. Two other nice things that we've added in here is there's a nice capability to do favorites. So places that you use very often are easy to get to without having to navigate all the time. And another one is recent documents. So being able to get to the things that you've worked on recently. One of the rules is, or one of the kind of findings is that people often work on the same document that they worked on yesterday for a period of time, so it's easy to get to those very quickly. Of course, this is fully navigatable, so I can continue to drill down here and look for other sites, but I won't do that. I can just show very quickly how this actually works in practice. So I'm working on an email. I got an email that's come in. Maybe it's a proposal that's come in with some attachments, and I need to store this because it's an RFP, and it's going to be a record that we need to keep a handle on. And I want to put it in a place where it's my project. So literally, I can just drag it across and drop it into the project folder where I have it. So I already did this. So I already have one of these, and oops. Didn't go me do that one. We try a different one. Yeah. Okay, I'll try this one over here. Always the demo demons set in. So let me just try one more email. Okay, I think this one is working. And what happens is that it should be prompted for metadata. So we should see this in just a moment. I didn't ask it because I already have this document in here. But under normal circumstances, what I'm prompted for is the metadata on the right side of the window. The right sidebar is replaced with a metadata window and with default values. And all I really need to do is to just click on those values to upload the document and to capture it. So making this super simple for people, all they really need to do is drag and drop. They don't need to do anything beyond that. And this is, again, once people understand that they're doing information management without doing information management, this makes all the difference. So that's one, also being able to find information. So let's just look for information. I can do a search here, and I have the capabilities of searching with setting the search scope. I can find the information basically whether I want to look in this local site or the global site. I can filter by location, which app it's in. So I just want to look for the SharePoint documents. And I want to just find, maybe there's all sorts of filters here. I just want to find maybe an Excel, how many Excel sheets we've got. And it becomes very easy to drill down and find that information, even though it might be spread across many different document repositories in SharePoint, in Microsoft 365. One last item, just show here for a moment, is I can open the location, so I can navigate directly to a location, and then I can find, for example, if I want to share this with somebody, you can use the Microsoft Share capabilities to be able to share this with somebody if your organization permits. Let's send this with. I'll just with somebody in a group, and I can type a message, and I can do all the capabilities. I can specify what people can view, and then I can just send it to them, and the link is sent, and they have it. Making it very easy to share information. If your organization allows you to share this information, it becomes quite simple to do that. Another thing you can do quite easily is to apply retention labels here. So I can say that I can turn this into a record directly from the sidebar without having to go out and do that in another format, making this very easy to manage information, to also create records and get everything done in a single place without leaving Outlook. So maybe just head back to slides here for a moment. Just like to briefly mention one. I talked about a case study that recently we did a webinar together with the Department of Employment and Social Development of Canada. Really, it was a case of moving to. They, like many companies, organizations went to Teams very quickly. 30,000 people adopted Teams within 3 months. They just literally had to do it because everybody was during a lockdown. And that's where they had a lot of problems with the email inboxes exploding because of people trying to keep all the attachments. And the Harmony solution for them is really a way of doing, this was in the words of the executive director of business solutions, was a way of doing information without doing information management. The less you have to train people how to do it, how to capture and classify information, is really the key to success. And by bringing everything into the window where people spend their work time, That's really where what makes it simple to do. If you like to try it, I got a couple of links here. There's also a QR code that you can try to try an enterprise trial of this. Or if you're a customer, you can get the new version. The existing customer, you can get the Harmony 365 version by logging into our customer portal here. These will be available afterwards. And if you want to reach me, you can reach me through any of these locations. And thank you for your attention and time.
That is David Lavender, Chief Product Officer at Harmony. David, we are just about out of time, but before I let you go, one last question. I want to bring it back to our original design today, and that is making the connection between information governance and business strategy. What is your advice for our listeners struggling to do that?
Yeah, so I mean, the key is really is to evaluate and come up with what the goal of the project is out of the gate, and look at this really as what the key business elements are. So, as gave an example, if you're an organization that's doing a professional services and you're working with clients, making it easy for people to focus on organizing the information according to the clients, the client repositories, making it easy to get emails into Teams so you can work on that. It's critical to really align the goals and the priorities of the project with what's really key to the business at the moment, particularly in these times of remote work.
Very good, David. Thank you so much for being with us today and for your comments for our event.
Thank you.